Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Connected by Community, brought to you by Ballentine Capital Advisor. I'm your host, Anthony Colincheco, and with me is Bryan Ballentine, and today we get to celebrate Bryan a little bit. We get to celebrate 25 years in the industry, and we have a special announcement about a book coming out in the next month.
Yeah.
So, Bryan, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And before we jump into 25 years and the book, we might have some new folks that are listening in. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So thank you, and certainly glad to be here. Bryan Ballentine, founder of Ballentine Capital Advisors. Been in the community for a long time, going on soon to be 25 years in the financial services business, but more importantly, just been honored to be part of this community, serve a lot of folks. I have a lovely wife and two kids, one son that is a freshman in college, and another that is a senior in high school. So getting close to being an empty nester there and learning how that is. In fact, my son's off, and then my daughter was away this weekend, and my wife and I were talking about, boy, this is a new life. So maybe we'll have a whole show one day on Connected by Community about the empty nester thing. But yeah, so that's a quick tidbit. I guess we also have one dog that thinks she now owns the house. So that's where we are.
I have to ask, any tears coming down when you dropped off
Oh,
Preston?
yeah. If someone says not, then they're lying for sure. No, he's a good kid and certainly is missed, but he's off doing good things and learning lots of stuff.
So we get to celebrate 25 years. Maybe tell us a little bit about, your passion and how you kind of got into the industry.
Yeah, sure. So started off a long time ago, back in the dark ages for the young folks, before the internet maybe even really was around. Out of college, I went to work for an industrial sales company in Florence, South Carolina. Was fortunate to do well, made pretty good money, but never liked what I did. So I decided to move here. I thought maybe it was a geography. Come to find out, it was just I hated what I was doing. Always had a passion for this industry. There's some other reasons around it, from just things I didn't learn necessarily in my childhood and wanted to learn about money. And certainly some of that stuff's in the book we'll talk about, that drove me to have a passion for this business. And I realized I needed to have a passion about what I do every day. That's important to me, to have purpose beyond just money. So left a pretty good paying job to get in this business. Lived off my wife's salary, worked a lot of hours, really, really hard, and certainly was fortunate to eventually make it, or maybe wasn't smart enough to quit along the way, and maybe that's part of it. So that was the impetus that drove me to this business. And I've always liked math, but I've always also liked being smart with money and figuring out how to do that. And I won't say I always did it the easy way. Maybe I did it the hard way. I had some mentors along the way, but a lot of it was either self-taught or through education means, through the CFP and various different certifications that I took, and continual education that I took along the way. Trial and error, certainly working along some other experienced advisors, continually going to conferences, used to fly all around the country, learning my craft and skill. And certainly I think I got a PhD in some of that kind of stuff. Self-imposed PhD, I guess. And so, fast forward to today, certainly blessed to have a great team, of which you're one of the important parts. And we have a lot of good people behind us as well. Some really long tenured staff, and team members, and then some new folks as well, and blessed to be a part of this community.
So let's jump right into the book.
Yeah.
Wealth on Purpose is the title. Where'd that name come from?
So it was a lot of brainstorming, and I thought about it, and there's all these books out about money, and I thought about why even write a book, right? So let's maybe even start back to there before we come to the title. It's like I feel like in the rooms that I've been in, the conference rooms, the meeting rooms, whether it's to learn stuff or it's certainly with a lot with clients, or in my own office doing casework, in those rooms I've learned so much that I feel like I need to share so that people don't make mistakes that others have made, share so that they can do the good things that people have done, and also share the wisdom that I think I've learned through the years that I think I can impart on the person. And I really think, how I came about this title was I was thinking, we tend to work with clients that have the higher end of the net worth, meaning, our business is not usually meant for people with $5, to come invest, obviously. But I think it can be for everyone in that. How can I help anyone that reads this book, whether they have $10,000 to invest or 10 million or 50 million, and how can that be impactful? And I think as the more I thought about it, we all have some amount of wealth, whether it's a little bit or a lot. So I think the word wealth had to be in there. And I think our whole business philosophy is investing on purpose, right? We talk about that a lot in our business, and doing things purposefully. I think, a lot of times people don't have plans. They don't have a strategy. They don't have the outcomes they want. And a lot of it just comes down because they don't have purpose, right? And so I thought tying that together, wealth on purpose, act like you mean it because you do. And that can be yours again, whether you're starting out, whether you're 10 million and you want to grow it to 20 million, you can have wealth on purpose. And what I found through my career is, unfortunately, a lot of people have less wealth than they otherwise could have had than if it would have been on purpose. So again, that kind of, and that on purpose is okay. Well, the book is about, well, what does that mean? Right? So it's about wealth, but how do we purposefully go about maximizing, securing, and moving forward to do the best we can, whether it's growing the wealth, protecting it, or not letting maybe a government entity get into it. So that was, it's a long-winded answer, but that's really how it all came about.
So how many chapters do you have, and where do you kind of get started in the book?
Yeah, so there's 7 chapters. And I start off with a concept that I call the lizard brain. And I don't really even know why we call it that, but it was just kind of to catch your attention. And it really means don't have bad behavior, right? So study after study after study, and in the trenches for almost 25 years now, I know, and certainly I know you do as well, and you would concur, the number one impediment to people moving forward financially is bad financial behavior, right? No different probably than exercise plans, diet plans. Now, I'm the wrong person to give you that advice. I'm good with the money part.
I started today, though.
Good, I did too. Today is the day I started as well, so we'll hold one another accountable. But it's a lot like that, right? So if you have good behavior with your eating habits and dieting, you're probably going to be successful. Investing in wealth and money are really the same thing. It really comes down to behavior. It's not about intellect. If it was about intellect, truly the person with the highest IQ would always be the wealthiest. And study after study after study show that really, really smart people make really, really dumb, poor decisions. In fact, oftentimes being smarter can be an impediment to moving forward. Also, being successful can be an impediment. And I talk about in the book, just because you got $5 million or $10 million, yes, you might have been successful or lucky or inherited, who knows? But could you have had 20 million? Could you have had 30? Mm-hmm. Should you pay less in taxes? Should you have more fun in life? Right. So what if you could have had the 10 million, but had more fun? So there's all kinds of wealth too, right? So wealth's not just money. In fact, I think it's a lot more than money. Wealth is peace of mind. It's generational wealth, leaving it to your children or charity, being impactful to your community, having fun. So all these things are impactful. And what I have found in my career, and studies would back me up, is that people don't have the wealth they could have if they did it on purpose and had another plan. And the biggest, again, chapter 1 starts that real quick, a punch out of the gate. It's our lizard brain. It's bad behavior. That is the roadblock we have to first remove and manage, so the foundation of the book is laid out from there.
Yeah, accountability, right? That's one of the words that you said, is really having, maybe a financial professional holding you accountable to help with some of those behaviors.
Oh yeah. And my son and wife were helping me do some proofreading, and they said that message was certainly clearly relayed. And it is. I pull no bones about it. And the reason it's relayed is this truth, right? So let's, part of the neat thing about writing a book, I'll tell you, it's been a lot of work, and I realize why I haven't done it up till now. A lot of people haven't done it. Is a lot of stinking work. Don't kid yourself if you're thinking about it. Even if you've got some editors helping you in this or that, it's been a lot of Saturdays, a lot of late nights, a lot of, because it's generally done after hours. But study after study would back up, that having a coach or an advisor help you is critical. And I don't remember which chapter this is in. I guess it's in chapter 1 and really 7. So I'm giving away the punchline, but I love this analogy is, Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, no matter what you think about them personally or whatever, are arguably two of the most gifted athletes the world's ever known in their given sport, right? Whether they're the greatest or not, that's not my debate, but certainly everyone would agree one of the greatest. Both of those guys have coaches, right? Would have they been good without a coach? Probably. They're talented, God-given talent enough, they probably would have been good. Would have they been great? No chance in the world would they have been great. Butch Harmon made and pushed Tiger Woods to be better, right? And I also say in the book, and I would tell everyone listening, one of the things I want to tell people is you can go get a coach, and if you don't work with that coach, or if you have a good one, if you don't put in the practice shots like Tiger Woods would practice, and when he didn't want to practice anymore, Butch Harmon said, practice some more. You don't have this, right? Making him do things for days and weeks he didn't want to do. If you're not willing to participate, I call it a participatory sport, this wealth thing. If you don't put in the time with your advisor and do it, you're not going to be great. And be realistic. And so what I mean by being realistic is don't think you're not going to do the work and you're not going to have a coach and you're going to be as wealthy as you possibly can. Sports are lined with those people, right? They have hope. They're called hopes and dreams. That's all they are. They're not goals. They're not actions. They're not actually implementable. And so oftentimes in the investment world, the way that may come about is someone may say, I want to miss the bad times in the market and just be in the good. And I'll ask them things like, well, is 10% over the next 20, 30 years okay? And they'll say, yeah. And I'm like, well, if you'll just stay invested, that's what the market's historically done. And they'll say things like, well, I don't want to participate in the bad. I just want the good. What they're really saying is, I want higher returns than the average is ever given and less volatility. And I equate this like this, and this is the best analogy I can give, I think. For the golfers in the audience, they'll understand this. But if Tiger Woods went to Butch Harmon and said, here's the deal. I want to shoot a 45 every day on the Masters, every single day, every single year I play the Masters because I don't want any of my bad shots to count. Can I do that? Well, we all know that's ludicrous. So when we put it in a sports analogy, we realize just how insane and not on planet Earth that is. But with our investments, people say this every day without saying, like, we're not willing to call it what it is. And I don't want to say the book's about, hey, I'm calling your BS, but hey, I'm calling your BS, man. It's like, this is really the truth and what you're really saying when you're going to sit it out this time, or you just don't know if the government can get their act together, or this president or that president, or whatever's going to happen. What you're saying is you believe yourself, whether you're in Greenville, South Carolina, Miami, Florida, New York City, you're going to outsmart the collective wisdom of the world, and you're going to do what no one in golf could do at the Masters, and you're certainly not going to do it sitting on your living room couch. Now, the other thing, and boy, I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent here. Go for it. But, all this stuff here is in the book, is, people don't call it these things, and they think they can do this thing, and they don't realize the mistake they're making. And oftentimes, they either don't have a trusted advisor or they're not listening. And those things are just detrimental to people's wealth. I see it time and time again. I always say it, and I don't think I have this in the book, but as a coach and a wealth advisor to families, I'm just the first captain. You're the owner of the boat. You can sell this thing wherever you want to sell it, right? So if I tell you there's an iceberg up ahead and you choose to sell into the iceberg, you sell into the iceberg, right? So really, that lizard brain is, hey, have a coach that will guide you. And then I end the book with these ideas of what I call 7 turbocharges along the way, and there's a lot of meat in between. But that's kind of the bookend. Really, is we got this behavioral problem. We want to turbocharge. Where do we need to talk about in the middle to get to turbocharge?
And I think one of the most important chapters to me when I read the book was chapter 3, the planning piece. It's not just investments, right? I think a lot of people think, oh, this is just going to be another investment book. But the planning piece is super important. Could you talk about the planning piece and why that's so important?
Yeah, so it's really all about the planning. There was some song, it's all about the bass or something, right? So it's all about the planning. So whether it's planning, we call it planning, and for us, planning is chapter 3, supplemented by chapter 4, which is the bucket strategy for us, because we use the bucket strategy for retirement income and a lot of other stuff. But if you don't have a plan, you shouldn't implement a strategy, right? And so what I call that, when people just invest, they come in, they've gone to some big brokerage firm, or they just want to invest with us without having a plan. That's really like taking a prescription without a diagnosis, or cutting you open for surgery without doing the x-ray. And so if you don't have a plan, it's hard to have a purpose. It's hard to get to as high of wealth or keep as much wealth as you otherwise could. So start with a plan. The investments will, I won't say easily, none of this is easy, but will be more reliably fitting into the strategic buckets, strategies, and purpose you mean them to come forth. And having that plan helps control that lizard brain, right? So why do we even do a plan to start out with? One, because you got purpose. Two, you have a goal. And then three, we can help control and manage the lizard brain. So when the lizard brain comes along and you got something in our bucket strategy, which I hadn't really talked about a lot yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and get ahead of myself, and it's in bucket 2, and you're not going to need it for till year 7. And the market dips a small 10% even. We shouldn't need to panic because we had a plan for that. So that plan and the bucket strategy is, we plan for this to happen, Mr. and Miss Client. Didn't want it to happen. We hope it never happens, but it's in the plan. If it happens, we can breathe, we can pause, we can do what we need to do and control and manage our emotions, which we talked about at the start of this conversation. This book is the number one impediment to people's financial wealth and future is a lizard brain. So the plan controls that.
Let's jump into the leaky bucket, which is, I believe, chapter 4 in the book. What's the purpose of the buckets?
Yeah. So great question. We've been doing this for years, and we practice the bucket strategy of retirement income. So we have bucket 1, 2, and 3 for simplicity. But I often call bucket 1 the refrigerator, the grill. I call bucket 2 the refrigerator, and bucket 3 the freezer. And I equated, if you found filet mignon on sale tonight and it was the finest filet mignon in the world, I don't care how hungry you are, you can't eat so much, right? So you might put some on the grill tonight, put some in the fridge for tomorrow, and some in the freezer for long term. And I would submit your money's the same way. When you retire, you're not going to spend it all at one time. You're going to spend it over time. And we need to treat it like that. And unfortunately, most investors come in, whether they've been doing it themselves or they've been working with a big brokerage firm, and they put it in their portfolio and they just withdraw. Number of problems with that. It's not a purpose-based plan that's mapped out. Number 2, they can have what's called bad sequencing of return. And that means they may have to sell off assets to live. And so that can be mitigated with that grill or first bucket by simply using conservative or guaranteed assets, not to have to do that, allowing your long-term stuff to grow. We think that's critical and fundamental. Certainly there's no guarantees that strategy will be successful. It's worked for us for a number of years in helping clients manage their needs. But there's, nothing in life is foolproof, but it can be a helpful tool. And mostly it's about being purposeful and thoughtful where you lay it out and how you lay it out. So we find it very, very helpful and successful. And then that bucket 3, I'll go to just the freezer, allows you then to be more equities, be more growth, combat inflation, because you have the comfort of bucket 1 and 2, taking care of those first 10 years of your income needs.
And I think the buckets really help clients with their behavior and to stay disciplined. And I think we saw that last year when the market did what it did. Our clients, majority of them, stayed disciplined. We get questions, but we always are able to point back to that bucket strategy.
Absolutely. So yeah, your bucket 3 might have had a little volatility, but bucket 1 and 2, bucket 2 might have had a small amount. Bucket 1 probably had none or very little at all. And so you can go back and say, yeah, what we're eating is on the grill. What you're talking about is what's in the freezer. We got 10 more years for that. So I think you're right. It's a peace of mind in knowing there's a plan, there's a purpose, there's an outcome, and we can pause and we're okay. And even, maybe your conservative stuff even made money during those bad times.
So I'm going to jump to chapter 7, right? We're talking about behavior. We're talking about planning, investments, turbocharge. You talked about some of these items that you put at the end of the book. You mind just elaborating what some of those turbocharge your wealth?
Yeah. So for me, chapter 7 was, not that I want anyone in the audience to do this. If you're only going to read one chapter, read chapter 1 and 7. The rest of it's great. In fact, it's funny. My wife thought chapter 5 was the best, which was about investments. But 7 really is a summary of those things and what specifically to do. I mean, I guess that's the other thing that I would say I wanted to do with the book as a whole was, okay, I'm going to tell you some problems. I'm going to tell you some stories, but I want to end every chapter, and especially the end, with what can I really go out as a reader and do about it, right? So the turbocharge was, what can you go out like tomorrow and do? And I'm even going to, with that, back up even with planning, because I missed this concept in our conversation. I think good planning has to be actionable. It needs to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and where to do it at. And I think that's fundamentally missing for almost everybody that I see. Certainly if they've been doing it themselves, I don't think I've ever seen that. And almost from all other financial services firms, a lot of people will print you pretty graphs out, but they don't tell you those things, which are really all that matter. Graph is irrelevant. And so that turbocharge concept was just really that on steroids, right? Okay, let's get down to 7 things that I want you to do. And even though I wrote them, I can't remember them all. So I have them actually right here with me. So number 1 was plan first, implement after. So let's just keep it simple. I mean, do that, right? And there's reasons I give. So for the reader, I think, I have some bullet points on what you can do. But if I'm summarizing that point, number 2, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Number 3, bucket your money on purpose. It may last you for generations to come. Simplicity on the far side of complexity is genius. So I tried to give a little encouragement along the way. Number 4, investment behavior coupled with a purposeful plan using investments that have been structured to capture market premiums is genius level stuff. And again, have a whole litany of items that you can do to do that. Number 5, we didn't talk about this on the podcast a lot, and we don't need to necessarily, because who wants to, but it's taxes. Taxes are a big problem. It's the single biggest expense most everyone who has any amount of real means will pay in their life. It's not your house. Add up the taxes you'll pay over your life. They're substantial, and most advisors and CPAs miss and fail on this. So my 5th rule for turbocharging is wealth that is kept is all that matters. Plan to reduce your tax burden and keep more of your wealth for generations. And I think
that's chapter 6. Tame your taxes.
Yeah, that's chapter 6. But it's the 5th rule.
Yes.
Then the last one is about estate planning. And I think, again, a lot of us, I do hear a lot, well, I'm just going to spend all my money. And I don't care if my kids get it. I hear that. I hear also I want to make impactful legacy. And I'll take the first and say, yeah, you might, but rarely does the last check bounce and are you at 0, right? And so you can control what happens with your money, because you're probably not going to exit planet Earth on the day you think, right? God has control of that. You don't. And so a thoughtful plan, sometimes it doesn't have to be expensive, but a thoughtful plan is important. So what I have there is your estate, gifting, and legacy are part of your wealth. Make these happen on purpose. So in other words, have a purpose with it. I'm not saying spend a fortune, but be thoughtful about it. And then the last one is partner with the right financial advisor. Wealth on purpose can be in your family for generations to come. And I think, and again, all those have some more meat to them as you read the book. But I do think having a trusted coach and advisor, no different than Butch Harmon for Tiger Woods, is critical to achieve the true level that is possible for every American. Can you do it without it? Sure. Will it be as fun? Probably not. Will you be as happy? Probably not. Will you be as successful? Chances are probably not.
What are you hoping folks get out of the book?
Well, I hope they take those 7 things and do turbocharge their wealth, right? Whether it's with me or someone else. I really want to make an impact and allow people to know there is a way forward. Again, whether they have 100,000 or they have 10 million, to improve their situation. There are resources available. There are strategies they may not be considering, but I want them to know they must get control of the lizard brain and they must take action. If those 2 things don't happen, the book is of no value to you.
I'm super excited because I've read it twice already. It's a very good book. I've read, as you know, and same with you, we've read a lot of investment books. I think this book actually really spells out some actionable items that folks could actually take to really turbocharge their wealth. I'm super excited. When does it actually roll out?
All right, so I'm going to have to be careful. So I'm just going to say in September. There's been delays and, part me, part other stuff. But like I said, it's a lot of work, but God willing, September is our day, and certainly no later than October. But we have some things in the works for September that it should come out then. We'll certainly be letting people know. We will make it available on Amazon and all the various other places you normally can get books.
So, as everyone's aware, we do have a signature question. What makes you tick?
Yeah. So, and I think we first started the podcast. I answered that a long time ago. So I got to answer it. I'm going to answer it two ways. The same way, certainly, having the gifts that I've been given. I have this in the book from God's most important to me, and honoring that and the blessings I've been given. But I'm going to answer it in a second way for today, and that is what makes me tick for my clients and the business and the reason I wrote this book. I know in my heart of hearts, I still get fired up about it, how successful people can be if they have a truly trusted advisor that can help guide them and control their lizard brain. And if they do, I know what's possible, and that motivates me to get up. I mean, I'm still so excited when I'm able to improve someone's situation, cut the government out from their paycheck, make them have a retirement that lasts, have a strategy that lets their kids go to school. That makes me tick a lot. And I'm always honored when someone allows me to be a part of that journey.
Thank you. Super excited. 25 years, the book, a lot of great things happening at Ballentine, wonderful team. So thanks for coming on and talking about it.
It was super excited. Thanks.
Thank you all for listening to another episode of Connected by Community, brought to you by Ballentine Capital Advisors. Until we see us next time, go make our community great.